Hello everybody, and welcome back to the PC test server with me and Fallen, of course. And today, well, not today, but a couple days ago, some really exciting stuff happened. A whole bunch of stuff was tossed onto the PC test server to everyone's joy and delight. And I figured we'll take a look at some of that stuff. And today, we're gonna look at the new atomic power. Mostly the DPS side of it. Because, frankly, I haven't had enough use of I haven't used the tank power that much. So I'm not totally familiar with it. And I'm not totally familiar with the intricacies and all that sort of stuff with it. So I'm only going to briefly touch on that. But today I'm going to kind of give you guys a look at how the powers work, kind of give you guys an idea of a loadout for DPS, kind of show you what you can do with it. And the biggest thing I want to put forward is this is all really new. Nobody's got any idea so far. There's a lot of people that have started to put out what they think is a good loadout, and that's awesome, and they're really good, but I'm going to do my loadout. You guys can choose to use it, or you can choose to modify it. It's your character. Play it the way you want to play it. So, but this is just my little interpretation of the power. Now, unfortunately, I don't really have like any really deep specs to give you guys. I could give you guys pretty much kind of what I got geared up right now. I got a whole bunch of the PC test stuff, which is like 123 armor and things like that, which bumps me up to 137. So that's where I'm sitting at CR. This is a might-based power. Man, I cannot talk today. This is a might-based power. For whatever reason, my might's lower than I remember it being. Huh. Anyway, I have 10,827 might. In game, normally I have more at a lower CR, so it depends on what you're using for your mods and things like that, of course. So I just have this cranked up quite a bit. There's a few things about the power that are a little bit weird compared to other ones. Now, I told you guys in the last not the last Let's Play video I did, but the previous one, when they were kind of showing it off and everything, it looks super versatile. And it looked super versatile, but I'm starting to question that. Because, frankly, messing around with it, touching the powers, playing with it, testing what does what, it's actually very, very restrictive, honestly. Let me go ahead and hop into the trees here. So we have the radioactive tree and we have the nuclear tree. The radioactive tree is more your DPS side, whereas the nuclear tree is more of your tank stuff. But frankly, the power, it's suffering from one thing. At least the DPS side of it is. And it's because they're really trying to push this mid-range modification thing. And the mid-range thing isn't, I don't think they have it quite tweaked properly for this power. A lot of the powers, even the long-range ones, the long-range ones are actually pretty good at long range. They do deal a lot of really nice crits. But you're reliant on using, let me find that power real quick, I believe it's in the radioactive tree, is Geiger Beam. Now, Geiger Beam is an okay power on its own, but it's not very good for pulling off a general AM, advanced mechanic. And that's what I'm going to show you guys off first, is just the general advanced mechanic, not using any of the nuclear pressure stacks or the molecular charges. It's just going to be your general advanced mechanic, something similar to quantum and things like that, where you have a specific power that you set off first. In quantums, it is time bomb, and then you do your rotation, and once that time bomb hits, it's going to hit your enemy for a lot of damage, a massive crit. And that's what the AM in this, the general AM, does. Now there's also a separate AM, which is the nuclear pressure stacks and the molecular charges. We will go over that. But getting back to Geiger Beam. Geiger Beam is your long range finish for that rotation. It uses, let me go here, to atom-powered assault. Atom-powered assault allows you to gain power back from using any nuclear pressure stacks. Now, you get pressure stacks from using any of the powers that say it. So that's Beta Surge, Neutron Bomb, and on the other tree, it is Thermochemical Explosion, Nuclear Burst, and Atom Splitter. Those are the only ones that give you pressure stacks by using them. And they also have combos, and that's how you get your molecular charges. But when it comes to Geiger Beam, when you finish it, it's very, very, very weak, and it takes a second to kick off. So your long range AM is going to deal a lot less damage than if you are at close range. And by doing close range stuff, you're going to be using Geiger Blast. And that is your close to mid-range finisher, basically, for the rotation. And that's what gives you those big blasts of power. Those big crits on the enemy. So, really, it's up to you how you want to play, honestly. But the biggest problem for this power is its range is very, very lacking. If you want to be competitive against other DPS, it's very, very poor in that stance. It's really, really only good at close range, or if you just want to focus on using the charges and the power stacks, pressure stacks. That's probably where you're going to get your best long range, but even still, it's really only good at close range to mid-range, and mid-range is still pushing it a little bit hard, saying that it's good at mid-range, because it gets a little bit fuzzy at mid-range, to be honest. And for me, mid-range, so this is long range right here. This is generally where I sit at when I'm doing Quantum. Now, I know Quantum does benefit from being close up to the enemy, very close up to the enemy, and you deal excessive amount of damage by being close up. But at this range, I can still deal immense amounts of damage with Quantum and still be at a very safe distance. If I'm in a dangerous situation, I can just roll away, or I can move, or I can block, and I'm in a safe place. So, if we're saying this is long range here, let's see. Yeah, so this is about long range. This is the farthest you could go, so probably in this area is your long range. So in here is your mid-range area. Now, this is a really good spot, your mid-range area. This is a really nice spot. You're still in a little bit of danger, depending on the boss you're going up against, especially raid bosses. They move so quick, they deal so much power, and they have so many dangerous AoEs. The problem with this power is it's really only good when you're getting about this close to the enemy. And sometimes it's nice to get right up against the enemy. Just snuggle right up against him, really. And that's the problem I kind of have with this power. Now, I might be wrong. There might be a better way of doing it. But that's what I've found so far by using the powers. To get the most damage out of it, I have to be at least this close to do some nice damage to him. I'm going to sit about that close to show you guys this off. So this is my general AM rotation. This is using the close to mid-range powers plus the finisher and the power regen. So let me go ahead and show you that loadout. Now, you can do this differently. I've seen people in videos, they only use 2 powers and swap back and forth between the powers. But frankly, I want to get 3 powers off really nice and fast and get my finisher so I can get back into that... Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to smack the mic. Getting really excited here. so I can get right back into that rotation and deal more damage to the enemy. That's my thing. So what I've found is go ahead and pop your atom-powered assault on there. You're going to be popping that one first. Then you're going to get your atom splitter out. This one deals 50%. You can kind of jigger these around, but I prefer it this way. It deals the most damage to me. So I pop atom splitter on there. It gives me 50% increase in damage. Then I pop a little bit of neutron bomb in their face, gives them 40% increase in damage. And then lastly, I'll finish it off with thermochemical explosion, which does 35% increase in damage. And then lastly, Geiger Blast, which is going to give you that big hit to the enemy. And that's where you're going to get your nice crits on that. And lastly, in the loadout, this is just mostly for flavor, as well as Neutron Bomb. As I said, you can just do it with 2, but I would prefer 3 because it's faster, in my opinion. Lastly, I tossed in there Radiation Burn. You can really use anything here that you want, that you think would be good. But this rotation, unlike the other one, which I will show you in a minute, does not benefit from having your quark-gluon aura. I can show you that real quick before we start. So you're going to do your... Oops, sorry. I'm still on long range here. So let's get that quark-gluon. We're going to take the shortcut to get it. Now we have our gluon aura. So we're going to do this, this, and boom. No real crits there. It's really poor. And the big thing about it is when you're using that, when you drop your Geiger Blast, it eliminates your aura. So you don't benefit from having the gluon aura at all in this. That's not what you're going to be focusing on. You can get it, and you could also turn this into a combo rotation if you wanted to. But again, it depends on what you're playing with. This is good at close range, and you're going to deal more damage doing the regular AM than you are going to be doing the the pressure charges, and all that jazz. So let me go ahead and show you this off. Hopefully we get some really nice crits out of it so I can show it off. Let's go ahead and pop that. 2, 3, 4, and blast. Let's get a 40 there. See if we can get some hundreds like I was before. Getting some small crits. Yeah, we're getting some decent ones. I'm hoping for some 100 crits so I can show it off nicely. Come on. So yeah, mostly 40s there. Let's scoot up a little bit and try a little bit closer. There's 100 crit. That's nice. And oop, missed that one. But as you can see, you benefit from being very close to the enemy to get those 100 crits. So I'm very close to the enemy right now, dealing lots of damage. 100 crits there. Very nice. I'm loving these 100 crits here. But yeah, as you can see, I'm very close to the enemy. And if this were a raid battle, I would be in not the best situation. Let's go ahead and see that. Almost, what is that? Almost 1 million damage in a minute. So that's pretty darn good right there. That's pretty good. That's around about, it's a little lower than ideal with Quantum. Last night when I was testing this, I wasn't getting nearly as much damage, so I'm wondering if they might have buffed it a little bit overnight, but I can't prove anything there. So let's go ahead and, you guys saw that, and again, if you just rewind, you can see what the loadout is. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good one, and I mean, if we were to pop this as well, I'm sure we'd get some really nice crits, some really heavy damage off this. Let's see, 51, that's better than normal crits. It's alright. There we go, 123. That's probably the best we're gonna get as a crit, is 123, which is really good actually. And that's using my trinket, of course. So I wish the trinket would just clear itself up real quick, but we're just gonna roll with it for the next one. So let's hop on over to the rotation. Now this one I have set up to use a little bit more long range, but it's still really only good at close to mid range. So the way this one works out, and I'm going to explain the pressure charges to you guys, is it's a combo thing. So I'm not going to be very good at it, but I'm going to do my best to show it off to you guys. So again, you're going to pop atom-powered assault, and that's going to give you your power back in battle. Right here, we don't really necessarily need it, but it's also going to give us that increase in damage as well. And it's also going to allow us, well, these are the pressure charges and the molecular charges. Those are going to give us our gluon aura, and that is going to increase our damage quite a bit. It's definitely going to help out, but this type of mechanic, at least for this power, compared to the one I just showed you, the loadout I just showed you guys, this one it's sort of on par, but for the amount of work you have to do it, I don't feel like it's worth it to you. Personally, it's a lot more difficult to pull off, and you're not going to deal as much damage. But if it's your thing, you can definitely do it. And doing it is actually pretty cool, and, you know, playing your character as you will. So I have atom-powered assault. I have neutron bomb again. That gives me my 40%. Then I have nuclear blast, which is a little bit stronger. It does 45%. And then I finish it off with atom splitter. And those are the only ones you need for this rotation. You can interchange these however you want. You can go close range, you can try for the long range, whatever feels good. But like I said before, it's really only good at very close range to deal a lot of damage, and that puts it at a disadvantage. I also gave it atomic blast, which is just a 25% supercharge, deals a good amount of damage, like a 12,000k crit on the enemy, which is fairly nice. And I also added energize. Now this is a great power for tanks and for the DPS if they're using this specific type of loadout. Energize allows you to instantaneously use your supercharge, 25% supercharge, to get your gluon aura instantly. And that will allow you to have your damage right away. Or if you're in a tank, that allows you to get your healing instantaneously. So that's a very good power to have just in case you need to pop it for whatever reason. So let's get right in here. So this is a range melee set here. So we're going to go ahead and pop that. We're going to do this, melee, into the next power, melee, or range, and then melee. And that deals some pretty decent damage. And then we're going to go into this, get our attacks on. Woo. And every time you do a power, it's going to rejuvenate your gluon aura. Ooh. Like I said, I'm not super good at this, but I'm pretty decent, he says as he fails. Man, that's a hard one to pull off. Range, this one, range, ugh. Melee, range. Anyway, you guys kind of get the idea. I'm going to try to continue to pull this off as I kind of explain it. But as you can see, when I'm trying to do these, it's a lot more difficult than if I were to just do my regular AM. But you get some decent crits, especially if you can pull off the last one, which I cannot, it seems, because, yeah, I'm terrible at this. But I was getting probably around 20k crits after the entire thing, which is not bad, but it's still not great comparatively to the other one. Let's see if we can... that last one, I just don't understand why it's not going. Man. But yeah, for the amount of work you have to put in to do this, it's just not worth it to me. Yeah, it's just not worth it to do the rotation. And you can switch this up. You can do just 2 powers if you want. But in all honesty, it's just not as good, and it's weird and funky. But if you're a person that enjoys the combos and the fun stuff about it, this might be right up your alley. But yeah, I'm getting like, let's look at some of the crits. 17. 17. Not really hitting the crits that I wanted to on this one, unfortunately. Just not really doing it for me. Let's go ahead and give it one more try. I'm going to really try. And that last one, I just don't know why it's not working with me. Just not wanting to do it. Yeah. Screw it. I just can't do it. I'm just not good enough on it. But when I was mostly able to do it, not talking or anything, but normally you just don't get nearly as good of crits, and it's not nearly as reliable as just doing a general AM. But if the combos and everything are your thing, and you really, really enjoy doing that, then this is probably the loadout you're going to want to do, is having this different sort of combat-y, combo-y, melee type thing. And of course you can pop that, does some deal some damage. This will give you your aura right away, as I said. But that's not a bad crit. 10,000s, 19,000s, but it's still just not that good comparatively to the other AM, which is just so much more powerful than this one, just in every way. And if you do that combo, you're gonna get your aura right away. There's some good ones. 22,000, 25,000. So you do some fairly good ones. If you can get it all rotated properly, you can deal some pretty decent damage with it. But honestly, in my opinion, it's just not worth it for the amount of work you got to put in and the amount of opportunities you have to screw it up, and then you miss your rotation and you have to start all over. And it just doesn't feel like it makes you competitive against the other rotation, which is far simpler, deals a lot of damage, and it's fairly reliable, even though both of these will put you at a very close distance to your enemy, and that puts you in a very, very big amount of danger. So that's kind of what I figured out for the DPS side of it. I've said before, I'm not super inventive when it comes to these, but hopefully this kind of gave you an idea of what to look at, what to try, what to mess around with. You don't have to use these loadouts. These are just mine that I've sort of figured out for now. I quickly want to talk about the tank side of it. As I said before, I'm not the biggest, I'm not the most learned when it comes to tanking. I understand the mechanics of it, of course, but I'm just not as proficient in it as other players. But luckily for me, I have some really great tanks in my league. Some very good tanks to tell me things that they know of, what powers they like, what powers they don't like, what's going on with the powers that are in the tanking ranks. This power, I spoke to one of my league mates, Stu, and he said just from watching it, he didn't really like how it looked. And I don't blame him, because after messing around with it for a very long while, I just couldn't wrap my head around what the best kind of loadout would be. Because I understand what comes with being a tank. The general idea with a tank. The powers that you're going to need a lot of the time is things like let's see. What's a good one to point out? So this is your single taunt here. You're going to need that. That's always good. This is your group pull, I believe. Fracture, force your atoms to move. Oh, no, that's not your group pull. My apologies. It is the atomic reorganization. Change the atom composition of the enemies in front of you, damaging, stunning, and instantly bringing them to you. So those are some very important ones. Depending on the rate, of course, it is always situational what you might need. Perhaps you're going into a, let's say, Throne of the Dead. Perhaps you're the tank that needs to pull the big group of characters to you. Or perhaps you're the tank that just needs to pull Ares to you. You can choose which one of those would work for you in that specific battle, if that would work for you. So that's one power. All right, so that's one power right there. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and look at some of the other ones here. We need to look at the ones that are good for tank. Mass density is a pretty good one. It's not necessary, of course, but this is a nice supercharge. It allows you and your teammates to become heavy metal and absorb more damage. And it also, any of your members in the group, I apologize, I got the hiccups. Any of your members in the group that are not in the tank role are de-taunted, and the enemies will seek the other tanks in the group. So that's a pretty good one for a kind of a last resort sort of, let's get it out there. We need that. You could also have density, which is just kind of your general shield, of course. Let's see, neutron. This provides control effects immunity, and it also is very good for activating your quark-gluon aura if you need to shortcut. Now, the reason you need your quark-gluon aura is because that is the main mechanic of tanking. So let's say we need one of the taunts. Let's see, we need one of the taunts, and we need neutron blast. So that's 2 powers. So now we need to figure out how we're going to get our health back. So we need a couple of the powers, at least probably 1 or 2. We could probably go with 1 if we're very, very risque, let's say. The problem with that is you have to wait for the timer to kick over. So you're always going to be waiting for this timer to kick over for your power. So let's say we need 2 of those powers. So we got 4 powers already. Your loadout holds 6. Okay, so we have 4 powers already. So let's go ahead and look at the other powers that we might need for this. Let's go ahead and hop into the radioactive tree, which doesn't have very much of the tank stuff, but it does have some very important things in here. One thing that you might want to always have on hand is energize. This is kind of your oh shit button. Your quark-gluon aura, that's a hard thing to say. Say that 5 times fast. That is your ability to heal. When you're doing these combos, that's how you're getting your health back. When you do molecular charges, reconstruct a portion of your tissue when applied, healing you for an amount equal to 40% of your max dominance. So that's really very necessary to be doing those charges all the time. So you're always going to be in combat, doing these combos, trying to get those molecular charges so that you can stay alive, and also so you can taunt the enemy and make sure that they are attacking you and not attacking anybody else. So that's why it's kind of good to have stuff like Neutrino Blast to, I believe, yeah, Neutrino Blast, and also like Max Density is very nice. Or you could do Density, that's more of just a random shield that you might want to toss in there. But yeah, this is kind of your oh shit button. So let's say that's 5 that we have. Okay, that's 5. That's possible, right? It's possible. We could do that. 5. And then lastly, this is one that's very good. This is also kind of an oh shit button. This is it's Proton Remedy. It recovers your health over time. It's kind of a healing aura, and that's very good for you to get that back. So let's go ahead and do that loadout real quick. Tank. So we have Neutrino Blast. We have, we're gonna say we're gonna be close range, right? So let's go ahead and pop in, let's say Thermo Charge. Particle Beam. This is your single taunt. Let's go with our Atomic Reorganization. We have that and we have that. So that's around about the best loadout I can figure at the time, at this moment. It's very, very fidgety because you're going to have to go between those powers to make sure you get your 3 charges, to make sure that you get your aura. And if you don't get your aura, then you're kind of shit out of luck and you're not getting life back. So that's why I feel a minimum of 2 powers is probably best. You can, like I said, you can probably pull it off with 1 if you're good enough. But again, I just feel like you need those 2. And let's go back into this tree real quick. So that loadout dismisses us having any ability to have max density. It does allow us to have Neutrino Blast, which will provide some immunity and pull the enemies off. But we're going to mostly be hoping that Atomic Reorganization and the amount of damage we're dealing is going to keep the control on us. That's what we're going to be hoping for. We're going to have to continue using that taunt to bring all the enemies in. And we're going to use these 2 to get our life back. And yeah, that's pretty much what I figured out. But if you're going to do any sort of raid that requires you to have both a single taunt and a group taunt, then it's gonna be kind of a rough situation for you because you're gonna have to dismiss one of these powers. You could dismiss Neutrino Blast, but that's gonna remove your ability to remove the control effects and provide immunity for your team and everything. And you're also not going to be able to have max density, which is going to protect your team in kind of an oh shit scenario. So I'd like to see what people come up with this. Again, I'm not the biggest expert when it comes to tanking, but I understand what is required of a tank. And this loadout, this power, is just so complicated in having... I guess it's not complicated, but it's a little convoluted in that you need to also, not only do you have to focus on healing yourself the entire time, because unlike with like fire where you have lots of health and you just milk the shit out of that health, or with ice where you're shielding yourself, or rage where you're supposed to be immune to damage and you have to hope on your healer and make sure you're hitting those what are they called? Rage whatever, where you're making sure that you're not exploding yourself in battle and dying instantly. You're not rage crashing in the game. It's a little bit more convoluted because you have to make sure that you're healing yourself all the time. Otherwise, you know, you have to depend on a healer, of course. But this is the damage that you're going to be dealing right then and there. This is going to be your life or death. This is your shield. This is your health bar. If you're not doing these combos and you're not keeping your gluon aura on, then you're kind of shit out of luck pretty much with this power. And at the same time, you have to worry about the rest of the team. So you have to be making sure you're taunting all the enemies. It just feels very convoluted with the healing aspect of it, that you have to focus on all this other stuff going on around you. And I'm not really sure about it. I'd really like to hear your guys' comments if you are a tank in the game, or that's one of the roles that you really like to use, and you have hopped on the PC test server, because right now Even if you're not a full-time legendary member where you pay a monthly fee, you can still get on the PC test server and test this out for yourself. So please do. And send them feedback if you think something's wrong or if you think something needs to be adjusted, because that's how you get a good power. But I would like to hear from you guys. What do you think of the atomic powers? What do you think of it? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Do you think that it could use some work? Or do you think it, do you think that this could be a really great tank? Could it be only a tank? Could it be only a DPS power? I'd like to hear from you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I gave you guys a lot of knowledge. I know it's going on for a very long time, but there was a lot of stuff to explain about this power because it's so brand new. I wanted to get as much information out to you guys as possible. So thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time.